Alright, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. This is the video lecture for Lab 5. So let's talk a bit about what this lab is about. This lab is about the relationships between the classes. First and the most basic relationship is association. So association is a relationship in which there is no ownership between the two classes, and the lifetime is also not dependent on either of these classes. This is the basic idea behind association. Okay, any sort of relationship in which the two classes are independent but they are related in one form or the other. So, okay, so it's a relationship between two classes whenever class uses or knows its no. Okay, the association is also called a uses a relationship, okay, or knows relationship. Alright, so for example, students and teachers. There's no owner object, okay? The students can be created separately, teachers are created separately. They have their own lifetimes. So, but they have some relationship, okay? For example, the student, yeah, for example, the teacher teaches the students, okay? Or the student studies from the teacher, and so on, okay? So, students and teachers have their independent life cycles, but they exist in a relationship. Similarly, another example which we discuss in the class is about the customer and credit card. The customer comes to the store and he wants to pay the bill for the items you have bought. Customer is only using the credit card. Okay. So, so this is one of the other examples. Again, we might have also uh, implemented this or designed this customer credit card uh, problem with the using composition, which we'll be discussing it again later in this lecture. But we can have many different designs for the same problem. Okay? So let's look at how association would uh, how we can use association to design this problem. Okay, customer only uses a credit card, and the credit card, so customer can pay through a credit card, and credit card will charge the customer. Okay, so this is the relationship. The credit card can the life cycle of the credit card uh, is independent, and the customer's life cycle is also independent. So to better understand this, we can assume also that, for example, the credit card is shared. Okay, okay, one household has one credit card. This credit card is shared. Okay, so that's why it's not dependent on a particular customer. Anyways, so this is about association. So here it is how we can visualize it using a class diagram. Here's just a solid line, and the class diagram has three parts. One is uh, the top part has the name of the class. The next has the attributes or the members, and the third box has the methods or the responsibilities of a class. Okay, so customer class, and the minus is for private and plus is for public. So the initial step should be that we should be drawing a class diagram. Then we should translate this into code, and wait a second. Alright, so here, this is uh, the code for this example can be seen in the lecture 20 source code. Okay, but the main function is this. Okay, so this is the first example of part A, in which you have to design and translate this uh, this relationship, okay, this problem scenario using your C++ code. Okay. So the class diagram is given, and all the function details are given. You have to implement it and write the C code. So for this, for part A, you have to translate uh, this into the C++ code. Okay. For the association example, you can take help again from lecture 20 source code. Okay. I've posted this in the lecture 20 slides. But the main function should be like this, and you can see how this customer Tayyab is paying. So he calls the pay function Tayyab.pay, and the gold card is who has its own lifetime is also created in the main, and the limit is passed. The credit card limit is passed. So he just uses the gold card, and the pays function definition uh, includes the gold card objects called to the charge function, okay, which we can use in a moment. Here, so we have this credit card class implementation of the function charge. Okay, this charge is called, and this has this customer reference being passed and the amount. So this will charged, and first it will do some validation, and if that validation is true, okay, then it sets the new total credit, which is the total previous credit plus the total amount of the current bill, and success is true. Okay, and here was the pay method of the customer class. Okay, it takes the credit card reference, and it's always good to, we have discussed this, that it's always good to pass an object by reference, okay, so that there is no um, load or payload or the overload on the stack, okay. So it's always good to pass objects by reference, so that so this card.charge, this is the function call being made inside this uh, if expression, so which returns true. Okay, so if it returns true, this means the charge has been made. So I've like directly written the statement function call inside the if if boolean if expression. Okay, we can also do this. This is a new programming style. All right, now let's talk about aggregation. This is the second relationship, and this is a bit of more restricted, or this is on top of the association relationship. Association relationship is the simplest form of relationship. Aggregation has one more restriction, that aggregation now has the ownership element between the classes. Okay, one class owns another class, or one class has an object of another class. So the aggregation is also known as the has a relationship. Okay. So special case of association, and okay, and we've discussed that. Okay, look at this note. If you delete the parent object, or even then the child object may exist. Okay, one object can contain the other, but there's no restriction. Then the composed object has to exist in order to have existence of the child object. Okay, so the ownership element is there, but the lifetime, it's not necessary that the owner class and the child class, or the contained class, okay, or the component class object, okay, so their lifetime does not depend on each other. They have separate lifetimes, but there is an ownership element. Okay, so this is one thing which is different from the association part. In an association, to recall, there's no ownership element. Okay, neither there is ownership nor the lifetimes are dependent. The lifetimes are independent, plus there is no ownership. In aggregation, lifetimes are independent, but there is an ownership element. For example, department and teacher. Department has a teacher. If the department when gets destroyed, okay, then the teacher still remains. The teacher can go to some other department, or he can switch to some other university or whatever. Okay. Similarly, a car and tires. A car has tires, so car tires can be. There is an ownership element. Car has tires. Similarly, department has teachers. So department is the owner class of the teacher. And similarly, car is the owner of tires. But we can do this case. The lifetimes are separate. Okay, the car can still uh, exist even if we don't have the tires. Or in other words, the tires can exist when the car gets destroyed. Okay. If the car gets destroyed, we take out the tires and uh, we don't destroy the tires. The tires can be used and utilized in some other car. Okay. So in that sense, we call this aggregation. Okay. The tires can be used in some other car. Okay. So for that object, when that a particular car is destroyed, the tires are not destroyed. Okay. So lifetimes are separate, but there is a ownership or the parent object, child object, or the composite class and the component class relationship. So here's a class diagram for the car and tire. Okay, these are the data types for car, tire, model, make. Okay, tires are now you can see there's a tire pointer. Okay, pointer to tires. So this means that the tires are separately created in the main, and we just have a pointer to that particular set of tires. So anyways, we have this add tire method also, move, start, stop. Okay, and you tires have certain properties, make, okay, radial, whether the tires are radial or not, boolean. Okay, the life is constant. For example, a life of tire is for example 5 years or so. Okay, so that can be kept as a constant. The usage means how many miles that car has a tire has basically uh, being used for. Okay. So you can have some calculations, for example, and this is related to move. Okay, when to mileage of the car. When the mileage is increasing, so you have to basically update the usage of the tires as well. Okay, of those tires which are not spare. Okay, spare tires means the extra tire which is in the trunk usually. Okay, so here's the implementation. We have tires separately created, and for example, you have five tires. One is the spare tire, which is also called a stepney. We can set the info for the tires for each, and by default, we have set all these to false. And then separately, the fifth tire is spare, so we've set spare true. Okay. So now we have created a new car. Then add tires. We've added these new tires. जिसकी lifetime is separate, okay, and not dependent on car. So we just sending the pointer to tires, and since the array is by default passed by reference, so we don't need to do some add some ampersand sign or whatever. Okay, so arrays are by default passed by reference. So this add tires basically takes a reference or a pointer or an address parameter. Okay, then the car starts to move, and then car stops. Okay, so let me also explain a bit about what this each function इसकी definition आप लोगों को लिखनी है. What this each function does or should do. The add tires should simply set the car tires, the pointer to the argument, simply one statement function. Move function में होना चाहिए just for example for after a particular delay आप delay लगा लें और प्लस प्लस करते रहे माइलेज. फॉर एग्जांपल हर 1 सेकंड के बाद आप ठीक है +1 कर दें फॉर 1 माइल. ठीक है एंड सो ऑन एंड अकॉर्डिंगली जो है वो टायर्स की जो है माइलेज वो टायर्स की यूजेज सेट होनी चाहिए. फॉर एग्जांपल फॉर 1 माइल ऑफ अ कार लेट्स से कि टायर की यूजेज हम रख रहे हैं 0.75. ठीक है कि 0.75 इंटू दी माइलेज. तो जितना कार की माइलेज अपडेट हो रही है उसका 0.7 टाइम यानी 75% और दैट वो टायर की यूजेज भी अपडेट होती रहे. मूव में ही हो रहा है. स्टार्ट स्टॉप में कुछ नहीं करना है, उसे मैसेज आप कर देंगे स्टार्ट या स्टॉप. ठीक है तो मोर इन द नेक्स्ट part continued.